Hello, I'm Gretchen Cornwall, and I just want to say thank you for spending a few minutes of your time here with me today. I want to talk about a particular carving inside Royston Cave. Now, I'm not using an auto cue today. I have quite a few notes, so I'm fumbling around with some paper because I don't want to forget anything. This is important. So again, thank you for spending your time with me, and I hope to win you over by the end of this presentation. Royston Cave is a Templar initiation chamber. From the mid-1100s on up to the mid-1600s, this was an active sacred space. It would have been shut down during the English Civil War, unfortunately, and then rediscovered in 1742. But it would have been sealed and reopened at various times when it was safe by the descendants of the Templar Knights, who are the Rosicrucians and also Freemasons. Now, like Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, Royston Cave is a book meant for instruction. It is a book carved out of chalk, whereas Rosslyn is carved out of stone. The timeline of Royston Cave begins with Lady Roisia de Vere. Literally, her first name means rose. She marries Sir Geoffrey de Mandeville. Both are pivotal to English history and pivotal to Templar history. Lady Roisia places a market cross at the corner of Ermine, which is a Roman road coming right out of London, intersecting with the Icknield Way, which is of pre-Roman origin, which stretches from near Sandringham in the northeast all the way down into Bristol in the southwest. Royston Cave was planted and planned at that intersection for a reason, because it was strategic. They designed the temple first, extracted the chalk for plaster in building the growing town of Royston, or Roisia's town. Now, the Templars would have built a preceptory above the original opening. There was only one opening, only one way in and out of Royston Cave, because it was ceremonial in use. So they constructed, my theory is, they constructed a small building atop the opening in order to protect it, to guard it, and they would have been monitoring who's coming in and out of London, because due south of there, along the Ermine Road, the Roman road, lies the Templar HQ. So this is the capital in England, the capital of the Knights Templar. So yes, they did need to monitor who was coming in and out of London via that strategic road built by the Romans. There are approximately, according to legend, 3 small holdings in Royston that the Templars owned themselves. I had the distinct privilege of bringing the cave to an international audience via the History Channel's The Curse of Oak Island in 2022. It was a rare privilege indeed. I was happy to meet with Charles Barkhouse, historian of Oak Island, who told me that I had Templaritis at the time, which is incurable. And he's right, I do have Templaritis. And it was wonderful to spend a day filming with Marty Lagina and his son, Alex Lagina, as well. The crew behind the scenes, they were amazing. It was just a fantastic time. And one I'll never forget, a day of filming I'll never forget. So, Royston Cave, which had been featured in local documentaries, local news broadcasts, a few books, meets an international audience. The 3 main points in the cave that were of interest to Oak Island viewers were the Knights Templar connection, the 1347 brick in Royston Cave. 1347 is also on Zena Halpern's map as identified as either a date and more lately potentially a location. At the time, the third point was the Rochefoucauld family and their family crest, which I discovered within the cave. So those were the 3 main points. The discovery is historic and was based on my multidisciplinary approach and life experiences. So as a result of researching Zena Halpern's map, my background in historic clothing and armor and customs, my understanding of man-made caves, and background as an established author and researcher. If I may, it's important that practicality prevails here, and historic truth overcomes mushy, wishful thinking, or storytelling meant to shift the narrative away from the original carver's intentions based in Templarism and identifiable historic portrayals of those carved in the cave. This is sacred ground. And no matter how well these intentions are, one mustn't shift away from the historic, identifiable portrayals of these people in the cave. So who is this little carving of? This strange carving, who is it? She's been identified via means testing by the academic community without question since 1742 as Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine, Queen of England, and prior Queen of France. This strange carving is like any other in the cave of other women, and it's filled with women. This cave is feminine friendly, whilst also honoring the male martial spirit and sacred leadership spirit. Okay, so we can see that she wears a crown, and it's quite distinctive. It's quite large. One could say it's bordering on the obnoxious, just in case you miss it. All right, so it's a crown, and any woman today can pick up a crown and wear one. We celebrate women wearing tiaras or crowns at their hen do, or in parties, fancy dress, photo ops. Now, here's where the problem is. Are all women queens? Are all women princesses? Absolutely. And celebrate your inner royalty if you choose to. However, historically, this is where things get into a bit of a trap. Not back then. One did not play dress up. To wear a crown either by your own hands or by your supporters would have brought swift retribution and perhaps even death. Fine furs, fabrics, and the amount of gold and silver one could wear as a member of the nobility, depending on your strata, was monitored, weighed, and under the rules of the land. Only the reigning monarch could wear purple, royal blue, or royal red. All this depended on a strict hierarchy that was enforced. The monarch was a secular representative of the divine on earth. Anyone taking on their crown jewels was considered, according to the mindset of the time, a criminal in the eyes of God. Identifying Eleanor in the cave is partly due to the other figures as well. Richard Lionheart, her favorite son, his wife, Henry II, her husband, King of England, and the proximity of Eleanor to the Archbishop of Canterbury, but that's another story. In the carving at Royston Cave, we see an oddly represented woman with her skirt pinched at her ankles. Now, this is scandalous. We don't think of anything of it today, but at the time, this at first sight is scandalous. Women were not allowed to highlight their legs or ankles, and no medieval drawing of the time would depict a lady of nobility or an aristocrat in such a way unless she was of ill repute. In person, one can see that this carving is set back into the wall. She's recessed. She's sitting on a ledge, if you will, and the skirt is pinched down at her ankles and it spills out over the ledge. And sometimes that doesn't translate in photographs, but if you were to see it in person, it does spill out over the ledge. And I thought to myself when I saw that, I thought, there is something very strange about this. It's not a skirt. It's a tail. It's definitely the tail of a mermaid. But who is the mermaid? History always records the male lineage when it comes to nobility, aristocracy, especially royalty. And of course, they wanted their women to be of good standing and of a good family. It was part of the politics of the day. Who are you going to marry to sink an alliance, perhaps even to bring in some extra cash into the crown or family? And fix up the old castle, get some new furniture, build fortifications, that sort of thing. So history always records the prominence of the male line first. So it's been a bit lost that this particular carving represents a female lineage of great renown and great importance. In fact, it was so important that it was made a big deal of in this carving. Eleanor's maternal side was one of the most powerful families in France, if not Europe. They were the Rochefoucalds. If you've been following the Curse of Oak Island and you're aware of Zena Halpern's map, you'll know who the Rochefoucalds are, but you should know who they are outside of that framework. Melusine is the family crest for the Rochefoucauld family, the family that's held their seat for 900 years in the same chateau, through 2 world wars, through plagues, through revolutions. That family has persisted, and Eleanor was one of their most powerful, memorable daughters. She was, in fact, a fairy queen of Avalon. Melusine could turn into a mermaid at will, or when threatened, a dragon. She was a lady of the lake. Melusine's descendant was Queen of England. Melusine's most famous son was Richard the Lionheart. So what further proof do I have that this carving is actually Eleanor of Aquitaine? We have to look at Eleanor's effigy in Fontevraud Abbey. It is rare. It shows her in an active pose of reading rather than in a resting funerary pose after the fact sleeping. This is the only image we have of Eleanor of Aquitaine from life. Every image since comes from that effigy. All images after that were based on this effigy. What makes it so rare, and if I'm overemphasizing this, is that she designed it herself. The crown, the dress, the way her hair is tucked under the veil, it's how she wanted to be remembered in life. She didn't want to be seen in a funerary pose like that of her son, like Richard, followed by John, her daughter-in-law, or even her husband, Henry II. All are in a repose of eternal sleep. Eleanor designed the royal tombs at Fontevraud Abbey, where her family is interred. Her own effigy was carved anywhere from 1204 to 1210 after her passing in 1204, per her instructions. Whoever carved the image of Eleanor as Melusine in the cave did so with full knowledge of her effigy in France. Now the crown says it all. Just compare the carving in Royston with Eleanor's tomb and also that of the Rochefoucauld family crest. If you can't see the correlation between the crown in Royston Cave and that of the crown at Fontevraud Abbey atop Eleanor's head, I invite you to look a little bit closer. Now, Lady Roisia and Sir Geoffrey were sworn vassals to their monarchs, however highly placed and well regarded they were, especially through the lens of history. They swore to serve their monarch with life and limb, and without the right to wear a crown. And no known imagery of either individual supports a mermaid or dragon as their heraldic device. To state that this carving is Lady Roisia or anyone else is to walk past centuries of knowledge and the laws governing monarchy. Keep in mind the timeline. Lady Roisia had long passed by at least 10 years before the carving of Eleanor was created in Royston Cave. Royston Cave is a many-layered and complex structure, and this is the story of only one of the carvings. I want to take a moment to state unequivocally how important Lady Roisia, Lady of the Rose Cross is to Royston Cave. But at that juncture, she was never depicted in any way, shape, or form with a crown as a mermaid or as a dragon. And neither was Geoffrey, her husband, who went heroically to his death and his body was one of the few taken by the Templars and buried at Templar HQ in London, one of 9 remaining effigies. So these were 2 very important people. But the carving is that of Melusine, House Rochefoucauld, and their incredible force of nature daughter, Eleanor of Aquitaine. For more information on this, I hope that you'll take a moment to pick up my book on the subject. I just want to say thank you for your time, and I look forward to sharing more of my work with you here in the near future via this method. Thank you.